Hi, class. Today we are going to be moving on to lesson 4 in chapter 6, solving two-step equations. Two-step equations. So, just like the title suggests, it's going to take 2 steps in order to solve these. So it's a step up from what we were doing with the one-step equations. So before one step, you were just, you add and then you're done. You subtract, you're done. Multiply or divide and you're done. This time you're going to have to do kind of a combination of some different things. And so we're going to spend a few days working on this. So two-step equations. Yeah, so let's go ahead and dig on it. So here's just an example for you to kind of watch and not write down. Let's say you had 2x plus 3 is equal to 5. Okay, 2x plus 3 is equal to 5. So this one is a little bit different than what we've been doing before. So remember what we talked about before with one-step equations. The key is knowing what is happening so that you can undo it. And again, the what we want to try and do is we want to try and solve so that the variable is all by itself. So one way I like to think about it is the variable is all by itself. It needs to get rid of the things that are next to it, that are bugging it, that are on its side, so it can be all by itself. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw my wall, right? Remember, this way we know there's a right side and a left side. The variable is always good to find the variable first. So step one is draw your wall and then identify where the variable is, okay? So one is draw your wall and identify variable. Okay, so we already did that. So x is a variable. Now the second step is we want to go kind of in reverse order of operations. Think of it this way: normally you would multiply and then you would add. Well, so on the flip side, you need to go the other way, and you need to use the inverse operations to get rid of the things and essentially take away what you last put on. So using our example from our lesson before, it's kind of like when you're putting on your socks and then your shoes. Then to undo that, you have to take off your shoes and then your socks, right? The first thing or the last thing on is the first thing off. So again, you can't try to take off your socks before you take off your shoes. That doesn't make a lot of sense, or you're gonna end up with a big hole in your sock or something like that. So again, you want to go in the reverse order of operations. So I see multiplying here. This is multiplying, right? And this is adding. So this is multiplying and this is addition. So what I need to do is I need to go in reverse order. So what is the reverse order, right? I need to subtract and then divide, right? I'd multiply then add, so I need to go in the reverse order, which is going to be to subtract and then divide. Does that make sense? So the next thing you want to do is you want to do the reverse order of operations to isolate the variable, okay? So in this case, so you want to do the reverse order of operations to get rid of the variable, okay? So this is what I'm going to do here, all right? So I see that I've got, so the first thing I'm going to do then, or not first thing rather, but what I'm going to do first then is I'm going to subtract away the 3 from both sides, okay? So subtracting 3 from both sides. So what does that do? I'm going to draw my line here. I like to draw my line. I say draw my line and simplify. Because positive 3 and negative 3 are going to cancel out. And all that I'm left with down here is, this drops straight down, is a 2x. And then I have 5 minus 3, which is a positive 2. Okay, so now we just have a one-step equation, right? It's like saying if you're 2 steps away, you take 1 step. Now you just need to take one more step, right? You're just 1 step away. So what's going on here? This is multiplication. So what I need to do is divide by that 2, which is what we did in the last lesson, right? Divide by 2 on both sides, because that'll cancel out. And all I'm left with is my x, which is what I want. And 2 divided by 2 is 1. Okay, so first I drew my wall, identified the variable. Then I did the reverse order of operations to isolate the variable, which means I need to subtract the 3 and then divide the 2. Okay, so again, normally in order of operations, we divide first and then subtract. we do the reverse, subtract and then divide. And then our last step, of course, is to, let's go ahead and let's check our answers here. Let's make sure that we got it right. So here we go. I'm gonna do my check here on the right side. 2 times, and again, I think 1 is my number here. I think 1 is my answer. Okay, well, 2 times 1 is, in fact, 2, plus 3, which equals 5, and that checks out. So I know that I have the correct answer. All right. So that's how you're gonna solve these problems. You want to do the reverse order of operations. Again, another way I like to think of it is a variable is by itself, so it wants to get rid of the furthest thing first, right? It's like the variable x is having a party, and it's like, all right, time for everyone to go home. The easiest one to kick out is the 3, right? Because the 3 is the furthest away. So goodbye 3, so that goes away. Now the 2 is really close, and say, all right, it's getting kind of late 2, so now let's get rid of the 2, okay? By doing that, and now we're left by the variable by itself. So let's go ahead and try this, and let's do some problems together here. All right. 3x plus 2 is equal to 8. 3x plus 2 is equal to 8. All right. So step 1, let's draw our wall. We identify the variable, which is x. All right, so we have multiplying and addition. We have 3 times x, and then add 2. So we're going to do the opposite. We're going to subtract 2 on both sides. Draw our wall, simplify. This is 8 minus 2, which is 6. Those cancel out. I'm left with 3x is equal to 6. Last step, divide by 3. Because we're doing multiplication, so we got to do the opposite. That cancels out, and I'm left with 6 divided by 3, which is 2. And I should get x equals 2. Let's go ahead and let's do our check work here. 3 times 2 plus 2 should equal 8. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 2 is 8. So that checks out. And I know that is my final answer. All right, let's keep going. Let's do another one here. Negative 2y minus 7 is equal to positive 3. Negative 2y minus 7 is equal to positive 3. So again, this one looks a little bit differently, but hopefully we can figure out what's going on here. All right, so let's go ahead and let's draw our wall here. I see the variable is y, so that's one I need to get by itself. I have, now this again, this is not minus 2 right here. This is not minus 2. This is times, this is multiplication. That's something we got to remember. That's multiplying by negative 2. Okay, so the negative 2 is one whole thing. That's negative 2 times y. So that's where a lot of people still get kind of mixed up. We did that with the one-steppers, so hopefully we get that right. Okay, so here we go. I see a minus 7, so I'm going to add 7 on both sides, right, to cancel it out. Some people do minus 7 there because like, oh, take away means minus 7. Remember, you have to do the inverse. The inverse of minus 7 is plus 7. So let's go ahead and cancel that out. Sorry, so I did subtract 7, or sorry, add 7. All right, on both sides. So that gives me 10 over here. That cancels out. That gives me a negative 2y is equal to 10. And then again, this is multiplication, so my last step is going to be division. So I'm going to divide by negative 2. I'll use the division sign here. That's going to cancel out here. Now remember, we saw negative, right? The alarms go off. Negative, negative. We got to watch out. Y is equal to 10 divided by negative 2 is negative 5. I should get negative 5 on that one. And then we would, of course, we do our check work over here. Negative 2 instead of y, I'm going to put negative 5. Minus 7 should equal positive 3. Let's see. Negative 2 times negative 5 is a positive 10. minus 7 is equal to 3. Checks out. Looks good to me. All right. Let's do maybe one or two examples, maybe a division problem, maybe one that looks a little bit differently, just so we can see it here. All right. How about this one? A over 4, let's say minus 3 is equal to, let's say 9. Okay. A over 4 minus 3 is equal to 9. Okay. So we're going to do the same steps. We're just going to think through. Remember, the key is if you know what's happening, then you know how to reverse it, right? If you know what's happening, then you can reverse it. So let's go ahead and let's see if we can do this here. All right. I'm going to draw my wall. I see this is division, A divided by 4 minus 3. So again, my variable's over here. There's the A right there. That's my variable. All right, I'm going to do some reverse order of operations. I see a minus 3, so I'm going to add 3. That's the only way that gets rid of it. 9 plus 3 is 12. Negative 3 and positive cancel out. I've got just A over 4. Now remember, this is not a fraction. This is A divided by 4. So how do I get rid of dividing? I do the opposite, which is multiplication. I'm going to multiply by 4 over 1 on both sides. Because what does that do? Cancels the 4 here. Cancels the 4s. And what I'm left with on the left side is A. And on the right side, 12 times 4 is 48. Let's see if we got that one right. 48 divided by 4 minus 3 should equal to 9. 48 divided by 4 is 12. 12 minus 3 is 9. Checks out for me. So hopefully you're seeing that two-step equations are just combinations of one-step equations, right? In order to do 2 steps, you do 1 step and then 1 step. So that's all we're doing here on these problems. We're going to take a couple of days just to really practice and make sure we got these really hammered down. There's certain ones that have, yes, coefficients that are fractions or in decimals, and we'll get to those in a sec. So those are the ones you have to be kind of careful. Sometimes variable might be on the right side. Don't be scared off by that. You know what to do. You could either flip it over or you could just do the problem as is on that side, okay? So that's how you do these problems. Again, the keys are back here. What you want to do is you want to make sure you draw your wall and identify your variable, right? Then you want to make sure that you are doing your reverse order of operations, okay, to isolate the variable, which means in this case, you're going to subtract or add first, and then you'll divide or multiply, okay? And make sure, again, you check your answer. When in doubt, you can actually, it's slower, but you could guess your way into the answer. Even on quizzes, you could kind of double check and say, okay, maybe this should be the answer, and check it. And that's fine if you want to figure it out that way. When it gets into harder problems, it's going to be harder to do that. But in the meantime, some of you guys can kind of figure out, oh, it needs to be 2 times something plus 3 and kind of work your way there. But it's good to do the steps because, again, eventually the problems will get harder. And so that's why we do all these steps. Okay, so that is 2-step equations.